The 17th nanny lasted exactly 4 days. Natalia Fernandez watched through the kitchen window as the woman, a stern-faced professional with 20 years of childcare experience, practically sprinted down the marble steps of the Brickell penthouse, her designer purse clutched against her chest like armor. Behind her, 2 identical 8-year-old faces peered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, their expressions eerily calm for children who had just orchestrated another psychological victory. "Mija, those boys," Mercedes Fernandez whispered in Spanish, shaking her graying head as she folded Anton Morozov's perfectly pressed shirts. "They're not normal children." Natalia dried her hands on the dish towel, studying the twins through the glass. Roman and Ruslan Morozov stood like mirror images, dark hair, pale skin, and their father's unsettling gray eyes. But where Anton's gaze held cold calculation, theirs held something far more dangerous, intelligence wrapped in trauma. "They're not evil, Mummy," Natalia replied softly. "They're terrified." Her mother paused mid-fold. "Terrified? Those boys made the last woman cry by asking her detailed questions about cancer symptoms. They're little devils." But Natalia saw what others missed, the way Roman's left hand trembled when adults mentioned illness, how Ruslan flinched whenever someone coughed. The carefully constructed tests that weren't cruelty, they were desperate attempts to predict when the next woman in their lives would disappear forever. 3 years ago, these boys had watched their mother waste away from pancreatic cancer. Now they systematically destroyed every potential replacement, convinced that love only led to loss. The penthouse door slammed. Through the intercom, Anton Morozov's voice cut through the silence like ice. "Mercedes, my office now." The man behind the mahogany desk could have been carved from marble, all sharp angles and controlled power. Anton Morozov sat perfectly still, his grey eyes fixed on Mercedes Fernandez with the intensity of a predator evaluating prey. His white shirt hung open at the collar, revealing the edge of an intricate dot-work tattoo that curved along his neck like clockwork gears frozen in time. 17 nannies, he said, his Russian accent barely detectable after years in Miami. 17 highly qualified professionals who couldn't last a week with my sons. Mercedes twisted her hands in her apron. "Senor Morozov, the boys are challenging." Challenging. Anton's laugh held no humor. "They reduced a former military nanny to tears by creating a detailed timeline of how long it typically takes different cancers to progress. They convinced a child psychologist that she was developing the same symptoms that killed their mother. They are not challenging, Mercedes, they are weapons." Natalia stepped forward from where she'd been hovering in the doorway. "With respect, Mr. Morozov, they're children processing trauma." Those storm-colored eyes snapped to her with laser focus. Anton Morozov was used to being the most dangerous person in any room, but something about his direct attention made Natalia's pulse quicken in ways that had nothing to do with fear. "And you are Natalia Fernandez, Mercedes's daughter." She lifted her chin, refusing to be intimidated. "I have a degree in child psychology." "Yet you work as a bartender." His tone suggested he'd already investigated her background. Of course he had. "I lost my position at the children's clinic for refusing to over-medicate a 7-year-old with ADHD. Some of us have principles that don't bend for profit." Anton's eyes narrowed, but something that might have been respect flickered across his features. "Your mother needs surgery. Pneumonia complications." Mercedes gasped. "Senor, I can work." "You cannot." Anton's voice brooked no argument. "You will have the surgery. You will recover. Your job will be waiting." His gaze returned to Natalia. "The question is who will maintain my household in your absence." "I will," Natalia said immediately. "You have no experience with my sons." "I have experience with traumatized children. Roman and Ruslan aren't destroying nannies because they're cruel. They're testing them because they're terrified of losing another mother figure. They're trying to predict when you'll disappear, just like she did." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Anton's jaw tightened, and for a moment Natalia wondered if she'd pushed too far. Men like Anton Morozov didn't appreciate having their pain dissected by strangers. "You think you understand my sons? I think they're 8-year-old boys who watched their mother die slowly and are now convinced that every woman who enters their lives will do the same. They're not trying to hurt people. They're trying to protect themselves from being hurt again. Silence stretched between them. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Miami's skyline glittered like scattered diamonds, but the beauty felt cold and distant compared to the tension crackling in this room. 1 week, Anton said finally. You have 1 week to prove your theory. If you succeed where 17 professionals failed, we'll discuss a permanent arrangement. If you fail, I won't fail. Everyone fails with my sons, Miss Fernandez, everyone. But as Natalia left his office, she caught something in Anton's expression, a flicker of desperate hope that he was trying very hard to hide. This wasn't just about finding childcare. This was about a father who was drowning and didn't know how to save his children from the same fate. The twins were waiting in the living room when she emerged, positioned like sentries on the white leather sofa. Roman sat with perfect posture, his hands folded in his lap. Ruslan leaned back with studied casualness, but his eyes tracked her every movement. So, Roman said in accented English, you're the new sacrifice. I prefer to think of myself as the new challenge, Natalia replied, settling into the chair across from them. I hear you're quite good at making nannies quit. The boys exchanged a look, the first crack in their composed facade. We don't make them quit, Ruslan said carefully. They choose to leave. After you help them realize they're not qualified for the job. Another glance between them. These children were used to adults who either cowered from their intelligence or tried to dismiss it. Natalia was doing neither. What makes you think you're different? Roman asked. Because I'm not here to replace your mother. I'm here to help you figure out how to live without her. The words hit like a physical blow. Ruslan's casual pose crumbled, and Roman's hands clenched into fists. For a moment, they looked exactly like what they were. Two little boys carrying grief too heavy for their small shoulders. Our mother is dead, Roman whispered. I know. And that's the worst thing that's ever happened to you. But she's not coming back, and pushing away everyone who tries to care about you won't bring her back either. Tears gathered in Ruslan's eyes, but he blinked them away furiously. You don't know anything about us. I know you speak Russian when you don't want adults to understand you. I know you test every nanny by asking about illness, because you're trying to figure out who's going to get sick next. I know you're brilliant and scared and tired of pretending you're okay when you're not. The silence that followed was different from the calculated quiet they'd maintained before. This was raw, vulnerable, the sound of walls beginning to crack. What do you want from us? Roman asked finally. Honesty. No games, no tests, no trying to scare me away. Just be kids. Be sad when you need to be sad. Be angry when you need to be angry, but stop trying to control everything because you're afraid of losing control again. Ruslan wiped his nose with the back of his hand. What if you get sick too? Then I'll make sure you're taken care of before anything happens to me. But Ruslan, I'm 24 and healthy. The chances of me getting seriously ill anytime soon are very small. Mama was healthy too, Roman whispered, until she wasn't. Natalia's heart broke for these children who'd learned too young that the world wasn't safe, that the people you love could disappear without warning. You're right. Sometimes healthy people get sick. Sometimes people die when we don't expect it. But that doesn't mean we stop loving people. It means we love them harder while we have them. From the hallway came the soft sound of footsteps. Anton, listening to every word. When she glanced toward the doorway, she caught a glimpse of his profile. His jaw tight with emotion he was fighting to contain. Can we talk about Mama sometimes? Ruslan asked, in a voice so small it was barely audible. Of course. She was your mother. She'll always be part of you. The nannies never want to hear about her. They say it's unhealthy to dwell on the past. The nannies were wrong. Your mother loved you. And remembering her isn't unhealthy. It's human. Roman stood suddenly, walking to the window that overlooked Biscayne Bay. Do you really think you can last a week with us? I think we can figure it out together. We're very good at making people leave. I'm very good at staying. When Roman turned back to her, his grey eyes, so like his father's, held the first spark of something that might have been hope. Okay, he said quietly. 1 week. But as Natalia looked at these two broken, brilliant boys, she knew 1 week would never be enough. They needed time to heal, to learn that love didn't always end in loss, and despite every logical reason to walk away from Anton Morozov's complicated world, she found herself wanting to be the one to teach them. The question was whether their father would let her stay long enough to try. 3 days into her trial week, Natalia had learned several crucial things about the Morozov household. Roman organized his books by emotional impact rather than alphabetical order. Ruslan could pick any lock in the penthouse within 30 seconds. And Anton Morozov was the most controlled man she'd ever encountered, which made the moments when that control slipped absolutely devastating. Like now, standing in the doorway of his home office at 11 p.m., watching him stare at financial reports, with the intensity of a man trying to solve the mysteries of the universe. "The boys are asleep," she said softly. Anton's head snapped up. Those grey eyes immediately alert. Even exhausted, he looked formidable, shirt sleeves rolled up to reveal muscular forearms, his dot-work tattoo partially visible above his collar, dark hair slightly mussed from running his hands through it. "You should go home. Your shift ended hours ago. My mother is staying at the hospital overnight for observation. I have nowhere urgent to be." She stepped into the office, noting the empty coffee cups and the tension radiating from his shoulders. "When was the last time you slept?" "Sleep is a luxury I can't afford. Sleep is a necessity you're denying yourself." She moved closer, and Anton's entire body went rigid. "Your sons need you functional, not running on caffeine and stubbornness. My sons need me to ensure their safety. That requires constant vigilance." "From what? We're 40 floors up in a building with more security than Fort Knox." Anton's laugh was bitter. "You have no idea what kind of complications a man in my position faces, Miss Fernandez." "You're right, I don't. But I know what happens to children when their remaining parent burns out from trying to control everything." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "They lose him too." The words hit their target. Anton's jaw clenched, and for a moment she saw past the controlled facade to the grief and terror underneath. This man who commanded respect through presence was absolutely terrified of failing his sons the way he believed he'd failed their mother. "You don't understand. I understand that you blame yourself for not being able to save Yelena." Anton went completely still. "You know nothing about my wife. I know she died of pancreatic cancer 3 years ago. I know it's one of the most aggressive forms of cancer, with a survival rate that has nothing to do with how much money you have or how powerful you are. I know you probably spent millions trying to save her, and it wasn't enough." "Stop!" The word came out like a growl. "I know Roman and Ruslan watched their mother waste away, and now they're terrified it will happen again. But I also know they're watching their father waste away from guilt and exhaustion, and they're scared of losing him too." Anton stood so abruptly his chair rolled backward. "You've been here 3 days. Don't presume to psychoanalyze my family." "I'm not psychoanalyzing, I'm observing. Roman asked me today if you were sick because you look tired all the time. Ruslan wanted to know if men can die from sadness." The fight went out of Anton like air from a punctured balloon. He sagged against his desk, suddenly looking every one of his 38 years. "They asked you that?" Children notice everything. They see you working 18-hour days, barely eating, never sleeping. To them, it looks exactly like the beginning of losing another parent. Anton's hand went to his throat, fingers tracing the edge of his tattoo, a nervous gesture she was beginning to recognize. "I don't know how to be enough for them," he admitted quietly. She was everything, the heart of this family. I'm just the man who provides security and writes checks. You're their father. That's not nothing. Their father who couldn't save their mother. Their father who's trying so hard to protect them that he's forgetting they need him present, not just powerful." Natalia moved closer, and this time Anton didn't retreat. Up close, she could see the exhaustion etched in the lines around his eyes, the way his shoulders carried the weight of impossible responsibilities. "What are you suggesting?" "Come upstairs, say goodnight to your sons, then get some sleep. I have work. The work will be there tomorrow. Your children need their father now." For a moment she thought he might argue. Then something in his expression shifted, and he nodded slowly. The boys' room was a study in controlled chaos, Roman's side meticulously organized, Ruslan's scattered with books and art supplies. Both boys were asleep, but they stirred when Anton entered. "Papa?" Ruslan mumbled, sitting up. Go back to sleep, Sin, Anton said softly, using the Russian word for son. Are you okay? You look sad. Anton's breath caught. I'm fine. Mama used to say that when she wasn't fine, Roman observed, now fully awake. Natalia watched from the doorway as Anton struggled with how to respond. These children had learned not to trust reassurances, had been conditioned to look for signs of impending loss. I am sad sometimes, Anton said finally. I miss your mother very much. We miss her too, Ruslan whispered. But missing her doesn't mean I'm going anywhere, I promise you that. How can you promise? Roman asked. You can't control everything. Anton was quiet for a long moment. You're right. I can't control everything. But I can promise to take better care of myself so I can take care of you. Would that help? Both boys nodded solemnly. Will you eat breakfast with us tomorrow? Ruslan asked. Yes. Real breakfast, not just coffee. Anton's mouth quirked in what might have been a smile. Real breakfast. As they settled back into sleep, Anton lingered in the doorway, watching his sons with an expression of such profound love and fear that Natalia felt her chest tighten. In the hallway, he turned to her with something that looked like gratitude. Thank you. For what? For reminding me that they need a father, not just a protector. They walked toward the elevator in comfortable silence, but as the doors opened, Anton caught her arm gently. Natalia. The way he said her name, soft, almost reverent, made her pulse quicken. When she looked up, his grey eyes were intense, searching. What you're doing for them. For us. It matters. They're good kids. They just need someone to see past the walls they've built. And what about their father? What does he need? The question hung between them, loaded with implications neither was ready to voice. Natalia was acutely aware of his hand still resting on her arm, the heat radiating from his body, the way his gaze dropped briefly to her lips before returning to her eyes. He needs to forgive himself, she said quietly. And maybe he needs someone who sees past his walls too. Anton's thumb brushed across her wrist, such a small touch that sent electricity shooting up her arm. You're dangerous, Miss Fernandez. How so? You make me want things I thought I'd buried with my wife. The admission hung in the air between them, raw and honest. Natalia knew she should step back, maintain professional distance. Instead, she found herself moving closer. Maybe some things are worth wanting again. Anton's control was fracturing. She could see it in the way his breathing had changed, the tension in his jaw, the way his free hand clenched and unclenched at his side. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying. For a moment, she thought he might kiss her. His head lowered slightly, his gaze fixed on her mouth, and the air between them crackled with possibility. Then Roman's voice drifted from the bedroom. Papa, can you leave the light on? The spell broke. Anton stepped back abruptly, his mask of control sliding back into place. I should. They need. Go, Natalia said softly. They need you. As the elevator doors closed between them, Natalia pressed her back against the wall, her heart racing. She was falling for Anton Morozov, a complicated man in a complicated world who was still grieving his dead wife. It was the worst possible idea. But as she thought about the way he'd looked at his sons, the vulnerability he'd shown her, the careful way he'd touched her wrist, she knew it was already too late. She was in this now, completely and irrevocably. The question was whether Anton would let himself fall too, or if his guilt and fear would keep him locked away forever. The sound of raised voices in Russian pulled Natalia from the kitchen, where she'd been preparing lunch. She found Roman and Ruslan in the living room, facing off like miniature warriors, their argument rapid fire and passionate. English, please, she said calmly, settling into her usual chair. Ruslan thinks Papa likes you, Roman announced, his tone suggesting this was a catastrophic development. I don't think I know, Ruslan shot back. He looks at you different, like how he used to look at Mama. Natalia's heart skipped, but she kept her expression neutral. And how do you feel about that? It's wrong, Roman said immediately. Papa loved Mama. He can't love someone else. Why not? The question clearly caught him off guard. Because if he loves someone else, it means he's forgetting Mama, Ruslan finished quietly. Ah. Natalia nodded thoughtfully. Can I tell you something about love? Both boys looked skeptical but curious. Love isn't like a pie where if you give someone a piece, there's less for everyone else. Love is like a candle flame. You can light 1,000 other candles from it, and the original flame doesn't get smaller. It just means there's more light in the world. But what if the new candle goes out? Roman asked. What if you get sick like Mama? There it was, the heart of their fear. Not that their father might love again, but that he might lose again. Then your papa would be sad, just like he was when your Mama died. But he would still have all the love he felt for her, and all the love he feels for you. Love doesn't disappear when someone dies, Roman. It just changes shape. Ruslan was quiet for a long moment. Do you love Papa? The direct question made Natalia's breath catch. I care about your father very much, and I care about both of you. That's not what I asked. Smart boy. It's complicated, Ruslan. Because he's dangerous? Because he's still healing from losing your mother, and you boys are still healing too. Sometimes adults need time to figure out their feelings. Mama used to say that Papa had a big heart, but he kept it locked up because he was scared, Roman said suddenly. Your Mama sounds like she was very wise. She was. She said someday someone would come along who could help him unlock it again. Roman studied Natalia with those two old eyes. Maybe that's you. Before Natalia could respond, the elevator chimed. Anton emerged, but he wasn't alone. A man followed him, tall, blonde, with the kind of casual confidence that screamed money and danger. His gaze swept the room and landed on Natalia with obvious interest. Boys, Anton said, his voice carefully controlled, this is Victor Kozlov. He's here on business. Victor's smile was all charm and sharp edges. And who is this lovely creature? Natalia Fernandez, Anton replied before she could speak. The children's caretaker. Something in Anton's tone made the boys move closer to Natalia instinctively. She stood, placing protective hands on their shoulders. Just the caretaker. Victor's gaze traveled over her appreciatively. Anton, you didn't mention she was so striking. We have business to discuss, Anton said coldly. In my office. Of course, but perhaps afterward. Miss Fernandez would join us for dinner. I'd love to hear more about her. Qualifications. The temperature in the room dropped perceptibly. Anton's jaw tightened, and Natalia could practically feel the danger radiating from him. Miss Fernandez has other obligations, Anton said, his voice deadly quiet. Victor's smile widened. Pity. Well, perhaps another time. As the men disappeared into Anton's office, Roman tugged on Natalia's sleeve. I don't like him, he whispered. Why not? He looks at you like you're food and he's hungry. Out of the mouths of babes. Don't worry, I can take care of myself. But 20 minutes later, when raised voices carried from the office, Anton's controlled fury meeting Victor's mocking laughter, Natalia wondered if she was in over her head. The argument escalated until something crashed against the office door. The boys jumped, and Natalia pulled them closer. It's okay, she murmured, but her heart was racing. When the office door finally opened, Victor emerged first. His suit slightly rumpled, but his smile intact. Anton followed, his face a mask of cold rage. Think about my proposal, Anton, Victor said casually, and think about what you have to lose if you refuse. His gaze found Natalia again, lingering with deliberate provocation. Miss Fernandez, it was a pleasure. I hope we meet again soon. After he left, the silence was deafening. Anton stood frozen in the hallway, his hands clenched into fists, that careful control hanging by a thread. Papa, Ruslan ventured. Anton's gaze snapped to his sons, and whatever he saw in their faces seemed to break something in him. He crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled them both into a fierce embrace. You're safe, he said roughly. You're both safe. What did he want? Roman asked. Nothing that matters. Anton's eyes found Natalia over their heads. Pack bags for the boys. We're leaving. Leaving? Where? Somewhere safe. Viktor Kozlov doesn't make idle threats. What kind of threats? Anton's jaw worked as he struggled with how much to reveal. He wants me to give him territory in South Beach. When I refused, he suggested that I had new vulnerabilities he could exploit. The meaning hit her like a physical blow. Viktor had threatened the boys. And her. How long will we be gone? I don't know. Anton's voice was raw with frustration. I don't know how to protect you from this world, Natalia. I should have never let you get involved. You didn't let me do anything. I chose to be here. You chose to care for my children. You didn't choose to become a target. Roman and Ruslan were watching this exchange with wide eyes, picking up on the undercurrents of danger and emotion. Are we in trouble because of Natalia? Ruslan asked quietly. No, Anton said immediately. You're in trouble because your father has complicated business dealings. That's not her fault. But she's in trouble because of us? Anton's silence was answer enough. Then she should come with us, Roman declared. We protect family. She's not family, Anton said, but his voice lacked conviction. She feels like family, Ruslan said simply. Anton's gaze locked with Natalia's, and she saw the war raging behind his eyes. He wanted to protect her, but that meant either pushing her away or pulling her deeper into his complicated world. The choice is yours, he said finally. But if you come with us, there's no going back. Viktor won't forget that you matter to me. I matter to you? You know you do. The admission hung between them, loaded with everything they hadn't said. Natalia looked at Roman and Ruslan, these brilliant, broken boys who'd somehow become her world in less than a week. Where are we going? Anton's shoulders sagged with relief. I have a safe house in the Keys, isolated, secure. For how long? Until I can resolve the situation. The careful way he said it, resolve, reminded her exactly who she was dealing with. Anton Morozov wasn't just a businessman or a grieving widower. He was a man who solved problems permanently. Will you have to hurt him? Would that bother you? The honest answer was yes. The practical answer was that Viktor Kozlov had threatened children and would probably try again. I don't want you to become someone your sons can't look up to. I stopped being that man the day Yelena died, Anton said quietly. Everything I do now is for them. Then do what you have to do, but come back to us. The word us slipped out before she could stop it, but she didn't take it back. Because somewhere in the space of a week, she'd stopped being just the nanny. She'd become part of this broken, complicated, beautiful family, and she wasn't going anywhere. The safe house in Islamorada was a fortress disguised as a beach cottage, bulletproof glass, reinforced walls, and enough security cameras to monitor a small city. But to Roman and Ruslan, it was simply a place where their father actually sat down for meals and didn't disappear into his office for 18 hours at a time. This is nice, Ruslan said, building sandcastles while Roman read under an umbrella. We should live here forever, Natalia smiled from her beach chair, but her eyes kept drifting to Anton, who stood at the water's edge talking quietly into his phone. Even in paradise, he couldn't fully relax. The conversation looked intense. His free hand clenched and unclenched at his side, and his jaw was tight with frustration. Is Papa still worried about the bad man? Roman asked, following her gaze. A little, but he's handling it. How? That was the question that had been eating at her for 3 days. How exactly did Anton plan to handle Viktor Kozlov? And what would that mean for the man she was falling in love with? Anton ended his call and walked back toward them, his expression grim. Boys, go inside and wash up for lunch, he said. But we just got out here, Ruslan protested. Now. Something in Anton's tone made both children scramble to obey. When they were gone, he turned to Natalia. We have a problem. What kind of problem? Viktor has your mother. The words hit like a physical blow. What? He took her from the hospital this morning. She's alive, but... Anton's hands clenched into fists. He wants to make a deal. Her safety for you walking away from this family. Natalia's world tilted. My mother has nothing to do with this. She does now. Viktor knows the fastest way to get to me is through you. And the fastest way to get to you is through her. We have to... No. Anton's voice was steel. We don't do anything. I handle this. She's my mother. And you're... Anton stopped. the words hanging unfinished between them. "I'm what?" "You're everything," he said quietly. "To my sons, to me. I won't trade your life for anyone's." The admission should have thrilled her. Instead, it terrified her. "You can't make that choice for me. I can and I will." "Anton, no." He gripped her shoulders, his grey eyes blazing. "You don't understand what men like Victor do to people. You don't understand how he would hurt you to hurt me. And you don't understand that my mother raised me alone after my father died. She worked 3 jobs to put me through college. She's the strongest person I know, and I won't abandon her. I'm not asking you to abandon her. I'm asking you to let me save her." "How?" Anton's silence was telling. "You're going to hurt him," she said. "Yes. What if something goes wrong? What if he hurts you first? Then my sons will be safe and you'll be free to live your life. Free to live without you, you mean?" Anton's control cracked. "Yes, damn it, free to live without me. Free to find someone who doesn't have blood on his hands, and enemies who would hurt innocent people to get to him. What if I don't want to be free of you?" The question hung in the air between them. Anton's hands were still on her shoulders, and she could feel the tremor in his fingers, the war between his desire to protect her and his need to keep her close. "Natalia, what if I love you?" The words escaped before she could stop them, raw and honest and terrifying. Anton went completely still. "You can't. Too late. You don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying. I love you, Anton. I love your sons. I love this broken, complicated family we've somehow become. I'm not a good man. You're a man who would die to protect his children. You're a man who blames himself for things beyond his control. You're a man who's so afraid of losing people that you push them away before they can leave." She reached up to touch his face, feeling the slight tremor in his jaw. "You're exactly the man I love." Anton closed his eyes as if her touch caused him physical pain. "I can't lose you too." "Then don't. Come back to me, come back to us." When he opened his eyes, they were bright with unshed tears. "What if I can't? What if this time I'm not strong enough, or smart enough, or fast enough?" "Then you'll have tried. And Roman and Ruslan will know their father died protecting the people he loved. They'll hate me for leaving them. They'll understand that you had no choice. But Anton, you do have a choice about how you do this. You can go in angry and reckless, or you can go in smart and careful. One of those options brings you home to your family." Anton pulled her against him then, burying his face in her hair. She could feel the desperation in his embrace, the way his body shook with the effort of holding himself together. "I love you," he whispered against her ear. "God help me. I love you so much it terrifies me." "Then come back to me." "I will. I promise." But as they stood there on the beach, holding each other while the waves crashed around them, Natalia couldn't shake the feeling that some promises were impossible to keep. That night, after the boys were asleep, Anton came to her room. He stood in the doorway like a man asking permission to enter his own salvation. "I leave at dawn," he said. "I know. If something happens to me, nothing will happen to you. If something happens to me," he continued as if she hadn't spoken, "there's money set aside for you and the boys. Enough to disappear, start over somewhere safe." "I don't want your money, Anton. I want you." He crossed the room then, pulling her into his arms with desperate intensity. When he kissed her, it tasted like goodbye and forever and all the words they'd never said. "I need you to know," he whispered against her lips, "that these past weeks with you have been the happiest I've been since Yelena died. You brought my sons back to life. You brought me back to life. Then stay alive. For them. For me. For us." Anton's response was to kiss her again, pouring all his love and fear and desperate hope into the connection between them. When dawn came, Natalia watched from the window as Anton's boat disappeared into the morning mist. Roman and Ruslan stood beside her, their small hands gripping hers tightly. "He'll come back," Roman said, but his voice shook with uncertainty. "He has to," Ruslan whispered. "We're his family now." All Natalia could do was hold them close and pray that love would be enough to bring Anton Morozov home. 18 hours of silence felt like 18 years. Natalia paced the safe house like a caged animal, her phone clutched in her hand, willing it to ring. Roman and Ruslan had given up pretending to play, and now sat by the window watching the horizon for any sign of their father's return. "He should have called by now," Roman said for the 10th time. "Papa always calls," Ruslan agreed, his voice small and scared. Natalia's own fear was a living thing in her chest, but she forced herself to sound calm. "Your father is careful. He won't call until it's safe." But privately she was terrified. Anton had left at dawn to face Viktor Kozlov, a man who had no qualms about threatening children or kidnapping innocent women. What if something had gone wrong? What if Viktor had been expecting him? What if... The phone rang. All three of them froze. Then Natalia lunged for it, her hands shaking as she answered. "Anton!" "Natalia." His voice was rough, exhausted, but alive. "It's over. Are you hurt?" "I'm fine. Viktor won't be threatening anyone again." Relief flooded through her so powerfully her knees nearly buckled. "My mother?" "Safe, shaken, but unharmed. She's at the hospital being checked over." "Papa!" Roman had grabbed the phone. "Are you coming home?" "Yes, Sin. I'm coming home." "Promise?" "I promise." When Natalia took the phone back, her voice was thick with tears. "How long?" 2 hours, maybe less." "Anton?" "Yes?" "I love you." A pause. Then, so quietly she almost missed it. "I love you too. Both of you. All of you." The boys cheered when she hung up, but Natalia found herself crying, great gasping sobs of relief and joy and overwhelming emotion. Roman and Ruslan wrapped their arms around her, and for a moment they were just three people who loved Anton Morozov and had been terrified of losing him. "He's okay," she whispered. "He's coming home." "We're really going to be a family?" Ruslan asked. "If you want us to be." "We want," Roman said solemnly. "We've wanted since the first day." When Anton's boat finally appeared on the horizon, all three of them ran to the dock. He looked exhausted, his clothes rumpled, his face drawn with fatigue, but he was whole and alive, and theirs. Roman and Ruslan launched themselves at him before he'd even finished tying up the boat. He caught them both, holding them so tightly, Natalia wondered if he'd ever let them go. "I was so scared." Ruslan sobbed against his father's shoulder. "I know, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." "Don't leave us again," Roman demanded. "Never. I swear to you, I will never leave you again." When the boys finally released him, Anton's eyes found Natalia. She stood a few feet away, suddenly uncertain. Everything had changed in the space of a day. Declarations of love, promises of forever, the resolution of a threat that had forced them all to confront how much they meant to each other. Natalia. The way he said her name, like a prayer, like a promise, broke the last of her restraint. She flew into his arms, and he lifted her off her feet, spinning her around as she laughed and cried simultaneously. "I thought I might lose you," she whispered against his neck. "Never. You're stuck with me now." "Good. I like being stuck with you." When he set her down, his hands framed her face, his thumbs brushing away her tears. "Marry me," he said suddenly. "What?" "Marry me. Today, tomorrow, as soon as we can arrange it. I don't want to waste another day pretending we're not a family." "Anton, I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But I've already lost one woman I loved, and I won't make the mistake of waiting for the right time again. There is no right time. There's only now." Natalia looked at this man, dangerous and tender, broken and healing, offering her a life that would never be simple, but would always be full of love. "Yes," she said. "Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll be their stepmother. Yes, to all of it." Anton's smile was blinding. He kissed her then, right there on the dock with his sons cheering in the background, and Natalia knew she was exactly where she belonged. "There's one condition," she said when they broke apart. "Anything. We do this right. No more 18-hour workdays, no more pushing us away when you're scared. We're a family now, which means we face things together." "Together," Anton agreed, was always. Roman tugged on his father's shirt. "Does this mean Natalia is our mama now?" Anton looked at her, the question in his eyes. "If you want me to be." she said softly. We want, Ruslan said immediately. But what about our real mama? Will you be mad if we still love her? Natalia knelt down to their level, her heart breaking and healing simultaneously. Your mama will always be your mama. Nothing will ever change that. I'm the bonus mama who gets to love you now too. Can we call you Mama Natalia? Roman asked. I would love that. As they walked back to the house, Anton's arms around her waist, the boys chattering excitedly about wedding plans and whether they could have cake for breakfast, Natalia marveled at how much her life had changed. 3 weeks ago, she'd been a bartender with a psychology degree she couldn't use. Now she was engaged to a reformed businessman and about to become stepmother to 2 brilliant, healing boys. It wasn't the life she'd planned. It was better. That night, after the boys were asleep, Anton found her on the beach. The moon was full, casting silver light across the water, and the air was warm and salt-sweet. No regrets? He asked, settling beside her on the sand. About what? Any of it. Marrying a man with a complicated past, becoming stepmother to traumatized children, giving up your quiet, safe life for this chaos. Natalia considered the question seriously. The only regret I have is that it took us so long to find each other. Anton pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. Roman asked me today if I thought Yelena would approve of you. What did you tell him? That she would love you for loving us, that she would be grateful someone was taking care of her boys. His voice grew thick with emotion. That she would want me to be happy again. And are you happy? Anton was quiet for a long moment, and when he spoke, his voice was full of wonder. Yes. For the first time in 3 years, I'm genuinely happy. You changed everything, Natalia. You saved us all. We saved each other. As they sat there under the stars, planning their future and healing from their past, Natalia knew that sometimes the best families weren't the ones you were born into. They were the ones you chose, the ones you fought for, the ones you built from love and hope and the courage to try again. And this family, broken and beautiful and absolutely perfect in its imperfection, was exactly what she'd been waiting for her entire life. 2 years later, the sound of laughter echoed through the renovated house in Coral Gables as Roman chased Ruslan through the kitchen, both boys dodging around Natalia as she tried to frost a birthday cake. Careful, she called, but she was laughing too. This cake has to be perfect for your father's birthday. It's already perfect because you made it, Ruslan said, stealing a finger full of frosting. Smooth talker, just like your father. At 10 years old, both boys had grown into themselves, still brilliant, still occasionally mischievous, but no longer carrying the weight of unprocessed grief. Roman had discovered a love of marine biology, spending hours studying the fish in their backyard canal. Ruslan had inherited his father's strategic mind, but channeled it into chess, already beating players twice his age. Where is Papa anyway? Roman asked, checking his watch. He promised he'd be home by 4. He'll be here, Natalia assured them, though she was wondering the same thing. Anton's security consulting business kept him busy, but he'd never missed a family dinner, let alone his own birthday celebration. The front door opened, and Anton's voice carried through the house. I'm home! Papa! Both boys raced toward the sound, and Natalia followed, wiping frosting from her hands. She found Anton in the foyer, still in his business suit, but with his tie loosened and the top buttons of his shirt undone, a sight that still made her pulse quicken after 2 years of marriage. He was holding a manila envelope and grinning like a man with a secret. You're late, she said, rising on her toes to kiss him. Worth it, he murmured against her lips. I have news. What kind of news? The kind that changes everything. He handed her the envelope. Open it. Inside were legal documents, thick, official-looking papers that made her heart race as she scanned the contents. Anton, this is... adoption papers for both boys, if you want to make it official. Natalia's eyes filled with tears. Are you serious? Completely serious. I know you're already their mother in every way that matters, but I thought, if you wanted the legal recognition... Yes. The word came out as a whisper. Yes, of course. Yes. Roman and Ruslan had been listening with growing excitement. "Does this mean Mama Natalia will really be our mama?" Ruslan asked. "Legally and officially," Anton confirmed. "Can we change our names too?" Roman asked suddenly. "To Morozov Fernandez?" Anton looked surprised. "You want to hyphenate?" "We want to honor both families," Roman explained. "Mama Carmen is our abuela now too." Natalia's heart swelled. Mercedes had indeed become their beloved grandmother, spoiling the boys shamelessly and teaching them to cook traditional Cuban dishes. "I think that's a beautiful idea," she said. "So we'll all be Morozov Fernandez?" Ruslan asked. "If that's what you want," Anton said. "It's what we want," both boys said in unison. That evening, after the birthday cake had been demolished and the boys were in bed, Natalia and Anton sat on their back patio, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. "Any regrets about leaving the old life behind?" she asked. Curled against his side. Anton's security consulting firm was completely legitimate. He used his knowledge of complex business situations to help law enforcement and private clients protect themselves. It was challenging work sometimes, but nothing like his previous life. "None," he said immediately. "This is better than anything I had before. Even with two preteen boys who think they're smarter than their parents. Especially with two preteen boys who think they're smarter than their parents. They keep us humble." Natalia laughed, then grew serious. "Do you think Yelena would be happy with how they turned out with us?" It was a question she asked sometimes, usually late at night, when the weight of being stepmother to another woman's children felt overwhelming. "I know she would be," Anton said firmly. "She would love that they're happy, that they're healing, that they have a mother who sees them for who they really are." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "She would love you for loving them." "I do love them, so much it scares me sometimes." "Good. That's how you know you're doing it right." A splash from the canal caught their attention, probably a manatee or dolphin, common visitors to their backyard waterway. "I have something for you too," Natalia said suddenly. "It's my birthday. I'm supposed to get presents, not give them. This is, well, it's kind of a present for both of us." She pulled a small wrapped box from her pocket. "Happy birthday." Anton opened it carefully, then went completely still. Inside was a positive pregnancy test. "Natalia." "Surprise? Are you—" We're having a baby, due in about 7 months." Anton's face cycled through shock, joy, terror, and back to joy. "A baby. Are you happy?" Instead of answering, he pulled her into his arms and kissed her with such intensity that she forgot to breathe. When they broke apart, his eyes were bright with tears. "Terrified and ecstatic," he said. "How long have you known?" "I suspected for a few weeks, but I confirmed it yesterday. I wanted to tell you on your birthday. Best birthday present ever." He placed his hand on her still flat stomach with reverent care. "Does this mean Roman and Ruslan are going to be big brothers?" "Looks like it. Think they'll be excited." "Are you kidding? They've been asking for a baby sister since our wedding." "What if it's a boy? Then they'll teach him everything they know about being a Morozov Fernandez. Poor kid won't know what hit him." As they sat there planning for their expanding family, Natalia marveled at the journey that had brought them here. What had started as a temporary job caring for 2 traumatized children had become the greatest love story of her life. "No nanny lasted with the powerful father's twin sons," she said suddenly. "What?" "That's what everyone said. No nanny could handle Roman and Ruslan Morozov." Anton's smile was soft and full of love. "Good thing you were never just a nanny. What was I then? You were exactly what we needed. A healer, a mother, a miracle." He kissed her again, gentle and full of promise. "You were home." And as the stars came out over Miami, reflecting on the water like scattered diamonds, Natalia knew he was right. This beautiful, chaotic, perfect family was exactly where she belonged, forever.